Hello, gorgeous ones. How are we doing today? Lovely to see you, those of you who are joining me. I would love to get comments from you, so I'm going to just set things up. Now, something very strange has occurred, which I'm just going to totally put as divine synchronicity. This was supposed to be live in my Manifesting Star Peace Utopia Facebook group, but essentially what is going on is Zoom won't let me do that. So we are here now on my main page. Hello, hello, everybody who is here, everybody who catches the replay, everybody who sees this on YouTube. Welcome to the New Moon in Taurus Masterclass, which is all about the ancient roots of sacred union and wealth. And I'm super excited to share this with you because I have just come back from my first public presentation of the Star Peace Star Maps in Portugal at the lovely New Earth Festival, which again, it was just doorways opening, wonderful synchronicities that led me to be able to actually run this session there. And it opened up so much more than I expected. I got so much personal healing from this as well. And basically what I've come to understand is that there is so much for us to be able to access, to be able to step fully into the Thrive paradigm. And this is specifically for those of you who consider yourself leaders of the New Earth paradigm, those of you who would like to co-create a Thrive paradigm for all, where we move beyond the conflict, the stress, the struggle, all the crap that we're so used to living through, that we expect it to be the way it always has been. And I know there are so many of you who are doing so much to actually try, and I use the word try, to support this planet to shift. But here's the thing. We are coming from a lack mindset, my friends, okay? And it is so systemic and it is so deeply woven into our psyche that it's actually really hard for us to see. And what I notice more than anything is how we argue for these limitations rather than allow ourselves to challenge them and move beyond them. So some of the things I'm going to say today will seem a little challenging. I ask you please to stay with me, to open your heart, to open your mind to what I'm saying, because when we can fully identify the root of an issue, then we can find solutions. But all the time that we're trying, I keep using that word for a reason, to deal with the symptoms instead of the cause, we keep having problems reoccurring. And, you know, if you haven't yet seen the interview that I had with Dr. Bruce Lipton, you can find it on my YouTube channel. It's also pinned to the top of my Facebook page. And, you know, I invite you to do this because this is the science behind everything that I'm saying. And those of you who know me might think that I'm very woo-woo and out there, but I'm actually incredibly practical, salt of the earth. And what I pride myself on is the incremental changes that lead to big shifts. I say this knowing that most of us would love a magic bullet cure to get us from here to here, but actually we don't really want that. Because if we had that, we'd never really know how we got there, so we wouldn't be able to trust it. So it's not that we want to stop ourselves using the faculties of the mind and the brain. It's just that we want to stop being brain dominant and learn to be heart dominant. So this is what a big part of today's session is going to be. Now, I also just want to let you know, for those of you who are new to me, what I'm really about, because I'm here to support those of you who want to have massive impact in this world, to have that impact. And the thing with having impact is that we need to be in vibrational resonance with that impact. And again, what I see more than anything is how we're well-meaning, but very often misguided in where we're actually coming from. So I'm aware I want to stick to time. So what I want to say here is that for us to actually have the shift that we want to have in the world, it is super important to create the secure foundations to fulfill your soul mission. This is exactly what I do with people without self-sacrifice, struggle, and hustle. And this is very important because most of us are living in this world coming from our emasculated masculine and our entitled feminine, trying to create change in the world. And these are not the ancient roots of thriving, of sacred union, and of wealth. These are the ancient roots of the patriarchal paradigm that have kept us locked in a loop of struggle and stress and lack. And in the end, what we do is we throw the baby out with the bathwater and we take what's going on in this world by misperceiving where the root issue is. And that's what I'm addressing today. So I'm known as a psychic soul coach, a multidimensional mentor, a divine channel. And the majority of my experience is focused in how our earliest influences shape us, including bloodline ancestry, soul memories, and the impact of our time in the womb, birth, and first 7 years of life. So what I'd love to know, because I'm just getting this up now to see who's here, I would love you, please, to let me know when you watch this, what exactly you see in your world in terms of lack and in terms of thriving. Where do you find yourself? Because in this Taurus and new moon energy, which will be birthed tonight, early hours of tonight, Taurus is a sign that's all about feeling safe and secure in the physical and material world. It is ruled by Venus, the enchanting planet that governs love, beauty, and money. And Taurus's Venetian influence makes this earth sign the most sensual of the zodiac. These cosmic oxen are enchanted by any physical manifestation of comfort and luxury. So this is really important to recognize, because the enchanting planet known as Venus governs love, beauty, and money. And this is the seed here, is that we are learning now to reconnect to love, to beauty, and to money, because this is the Thrive paradigm. And when I talk about wealth, I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about resource. I'm talking about the idea that abundance is unconditional. Thank you for that, Karila. I'm talking about the fact that it's opening to this idea that we can relax about the things that stress us out, because there is a constant supply available to us if we tap into it. Now, what blocks this flow? Our mind. What blocks our flow is conditioning. What blocks our flow is the world around us that tells us that there's not enough, that there isn't enough for everyone, that there's scarcity, and scarcity boosts sales. And yes, there are genuine scarcities that are available to us, including the fact that currently we are using way more resources than our planet can actually take. We're using 1.6 planets worth of resources because we're wasteful. We don't know how to make the most of what we have. And this is key, is that thriving and plentiful supply doesn't mean wastefulness. Okay, it doesn't mean not thinking about the impact of our actions. It just means shifting from finite to infinite supply. And this, for those of us who are here that consider ourselves heart-centered, that consider ourselves wanting to be soul influenced, we recognize that this is really about us tapping into source, all that is, instead of relying on fuel that keeps us in a limited state and is never going to provide for us abundantly. So we are making the shift from being ego-led, which is survival programming, to being soul-led, which is the Thrive paradigm. It's when we access all of our previous lifetime incarnations, all of the memories, all of the talents that we have earned from previous lifetimes, and we are able to apply them in this life. Now, how do we do this? Well, there's a whole thing around the mind, which is stopping the thinking and opening up the imagination. I'll go there a little bit later. What I want to tap into now is what these ancient roots are. So when I was away, I had this wonderful opportunity to connect with the lovely Solara Unra and Karila Unra. And both of these wonderful ladies are channels. And we ended up in Portugal having a 2-day festival, which was phenomenal, and then spending the 3rd day doing land work. Now, this is really important work to understand, because for us to truly have the shift that we desire, we are required not just to cleanse and upgrade our own physical being and our energetic being, but also to understand our relationship to the land, and the fact that lack consciousness, poverty consciousness, wounded hearts, the whole memory of trauma is in our land too. And if you think about it, all natural food, so anything that grows from a tree or in the earth, is coming from the energy of this land. So the cycles of lack are being constantly perpetuated through the consumption of what we drink and what we eat. Now, it's one thing to eat natural food. It's another thing to come into synthetic foods, to come into ultra, what do they call it now? They call processed food and ultra processed food, which really isn't natural at all. But this is coming from an even more poisoned state, if you like. And it is so foreign to our bodies that this is a huge element of how we get out of whack, out of connection with nature. And there's loads of stuff all over the internet about ultra processed foods and the impact on our bodies and our health. The same with processed foods. So I'm not personally going to go there, but I invite you to check it out. And what I would say to you is, for us to truly be in a state where we can access these ancient roots of sacred union, of wealth, of abundance, then it's going to be super important for us to get below the level of trauma, both on this earth and also in our bloodline memories. And that's what I'm going into today. So what I'd love to know is a few questions for you, and I invite you to answer these. Do you presently feel abundant? Do you consider yourself a conscious and spiritual leader? Are you currently seeking to run a community interest company, a non-profit organization, a charity, or a grassroots cause? Is there a part of you that wishes money just didn't exist because money is the root of all evil? And, you know, whether you watch this retrospectively or you're able to answer this now, welcome those of you who are joining. Please do say hello. It's important for us to get a sense of where we are to then work out where we're actually going to go. And one of the things I do more than anything is challenge people's current mindset, challenge the beliefs that block the flow of receiving. Now, on my own journey, I've had to really honor that I have come in this physical reality from tremendous lack mindset, both from my father line and my mother line. And the trauma has gone back at least 4 or 5 generations. That's how far back I know. But I want you to remember something. There is a time before the trauma. There is a time before the fall. And if we want to access the ancient roots of wealth and of sacred union, we are invited to journey way back when, through our imagination, to access the DNA memory, the cellular memory that isn't necessarily our personal experience, but we can access through our bloodline memories, and we can also access through our soul memories. So this is the key. The imagination is a huge aspect of us being able to access these particular memories and to come back to the ancient times of Lemuria and Atlantis, and to recognize that these times were not just hugely evolved times in humans' consciousness and her story, I'm going to say, so well before the history that we know, but also this is the time when there was the seeding of star beings connecting with humans. So this sense of, how would I put it? I don't want to say genetic mutation, but essentially bringing together different genetics to allow for evolution. So I'm not going to go too much into the Stour family stories, because I know for some of you this is just going to be a bit too out there. But is it possible for us all to imagine that we didn't just evolve from apes? That maybe there was some kind of, I want to call it extraterrestrial connection. There was some kind of seeding from other civilizations, other consciousness that might have existed in our galaxy or even beyond our galaxy in our universe, that were advanced civilizations that were able to come and connect with us, mate with us, and actually allow us to have advancements, some of which we know about, some of which are hidden currently, because the world that we know, more and more of us are waking up to the fact that the world that we have been told we exist in isn't really the reality. Okay, there's so much coming out with quantum physics and epigenetics and spiritual pursuit that allows us to recognize there's so much more beyond what we have been taught in schools. And I just want to really iterate here that I was listening to Vishen Lakhani, who's the guy behind Mind Valley, talk about how quickly we have been advancing of late. And there have been huge leaps in advances with technology, with science, with all sorts that have been going on in the last few years. But particularly, to give you an example, from 2022 to 2026, we're expecting a 100-year advancement thanks to AI technology and everything else that's going on, which means that the things we're taught in school or were taught in school are more or less totally defunct. So how do we do this? How do we shift? How do we move? How do we allow ourselves to get beyond what we actually know? So the ancient roots of sacred union and wealth are found in the forgotten times of Lemuria Atlantis and the convoluted stories of the deities of wealth. More on this a little bit later, but for now, let's look at the foundations that are relevant to us. This is all about the Thrive paradigm as we make the switch from a 3D fear-based reality into a 5D love-based reality. We go through an upgrade of our circuitry. Most of us have been wired from our time in the womb and even before to survive rather than thrive. To get from 3D to 5D, we are required to cross the 4D bridge. I made another video about this. You can check out my page a little further down. This is the realm of the mind, the astral plane, and the infinite search for knowledge and meaning that keeps us stuck in here rather than making the journey to the heart through the body. Now, this is where most of us default back to the brain, back to the brain, back to the brain, because we're too scared to get fully into the memories that are held in our cellular memory. Why? Because they're painful. And most of us like to avoid pain. That's what survival programming is all about. It is avoiding the pain that has occurred in the past. But the way that we have programmed ourselves is according to the understanding of an under 7-year-old version of us. So can you imagine that the way that we tried to make sense of the world and prevent ourselves experiencing pain was from a very, 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 very limited mindset. And this has been handed from one generation to the next and reinterpreted by us, which is why we live in a fear-based paradigm rather than a love-based paradigm. So what does this actually mean? Well, it might be hard to hear, but please bear with me, okay? Because as we face the root of the problem, then we can find the solution. Generally speaking, if we are wired to survive, we are reactive, sympathetic nervous system dominant, and so our go-to is fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And if you're not sure about this, obviously, when you're in a corner, you attack if you feel threatened, or you run for it and hide, or you freeze and play dead, or, and this is the one that most of us who identify as people pleasers or empaths actually do, we anticipate the needs of others, and we anticipate the needs of others so that we can ingratiate ourselves in such a way to these others that we are found useful rather than useless, and therefore we are not discarded and we are not basically annihilated. Now, this is our survival plan, okay? But what that actually means is, guess who's at the bottom of the pile of importance? Guess who never gets to ask themselves, what do I want? What's important to me? Us. So again, what I'd love to know is, are you identifying 1 as an empath? Put a 1 in the comments if you are. 2 as a starseed, or 3 as a light worker. And maybe you don't identify with any of those. 4, a highly sensitive person. So 1 empath, 2 starseed, 3 light worker, 4 highly sensitive person. Please, please, please do comment and let me know, because I'm very interested to hear, those of you who are tuning in, what this actually means for you. Now, let's go here. We are motivated by pain and suffering we have been through and wish to prevent, minimize others experiencing the same. It's a truly genuine, noble intention, okay? But here's the problem. We're trying to help others when we ourselves are still very much in the struggle zone. Trying to give from an empty cup rather than allowing ourselves to receive what is required so we can give from an overflow. Now, what would this mean for you to give from an overflow? More time to rest, play, give yourself permission to want and receive more, have fun, not just feel like you've got to be on mission all the time, that if you're not somehow doing something to help others all the time, you are not worthy of existing, okay? This is why we get burnt out as leaders. This is why we end up sick, because we're constantly putting out and we're not allowing ourselves to receive. We feel it's a waste of time to relax, to have fun, to let go, to enjoy the pleasures of being on this planet. And it really isn't a waste of time at all. And typically we will not stop until we drop. So we get sick, we get injured, we get burnt out. Now, typically those who are empaths and starseeds, we just don't even realize we're so in the save the world type of energy that, or save others, help others energy, that we don't know our pain levels. We don't know when we have overgiven until we're shot. And, you know, confidence can come from various places. Confidence can come from the solar plexus, which is the ego programming, which is a false bravado, or it can come from a deep sense of understanding our gifts, our talents, and also how important it is that we are in a good place to be of service to others. So service to others requires us to be selfish. I'm not the first to say this. Matthew McConaughey said it. Many, many spiritual teachers have said this. The important thing is to take it on. So what would it actually mean for you to actually allow yourself to have time without getting sick, to actually have time where you literally goof off? Because when it comes to this play, these ancient roots of actually being in sacred union and being in wealth, both of these are connected to the Thrive paradigm. They're frequencies of love, they're frequencies of abundance, they're frequencies of joy, they're frequencies of peace. And guess what? We don't really know joy and peace. We don't really know what it actually means to thrive, because this planet is not wired currently for it, neither are we. So what does it come down to when you actually allow yourself to say, all right, if I was to have more fun, would I be able to give more from a full cup? Would you let yourself have fun? Would you feel guilty? Because I know most people that work in service to others feel guilty when they dare to take time off, to goof off, to do something silly. We get this sense that we could achieve so much more if we didn't turn the telly on, if we didn't goof off, if we didn't have fun on the weekends. And yet we're not here just to do. We're here to be. And here is the challenge. The ancient roots of sacred union lie in bringing together the feminine principles of spirituality and also our connection to the rhythms of nature with communication and technological advancement. We need both compassion and consciousness to thrive, okay? And the same with wealth. Wealth really is the energy of plentiful supply. So I'm going to ask you this. In your life now, wherever lack is showing up, do you find yourself in a place where you're experiencing more often than not enough, just enough, more than enough, or plenty? And I'm going to ask you again to answer that. So I've got a star map that I want to share with you, because this kind of says it all in terms of the shifts that are required to be made to get us from being in lack, being in the struggle paradigm, to being in service, okay? Now, this star map is actually the 6 fuel shifts. It's disappeared. How fun is that? The 6 fuel shifts from, there it is, going from lack to thriving, okay? So this is the shift from the 3D world to the 5D world, and every one of us is part of this. But you cannot create a 5D reality from a 3D mindset. I'm going to repeat that. You cannot create a 5D reality from a 3D mindset. Why? Well, because if you're coming from lack, trying to create thriving, trying to create abundance, you can see it's not a vibrational match. Now, remember what I just said to you a minute ago about the fact that we are generally coming in the patriarchal paradigm, which we are fast coming out of. We are generally operating from the emasculated masculine, suppressing his needs in order to serve others, whether it's the family, whether it's the workplace, basically suppressing our desires, our wants, our needs to get the bills paid, to put food on the table, to do whatever it takes to survive, right? Because we're not wired to thrive. And then the entitled feminine is the aspect of us that really just demands, wants, or comes into victim consciousness if we're oscillating between entitled and then, why is this happening to me? I'm not happy. What's going on? I keep trying to do everything right and it's just not happening for me. What am I doing wrong? And this is the thing. To actually get us from the 3D world to the 5D world, we are required to go through the 4D bridge. And the 4D bridge is the brain, it's the mind, it's the consciousness that either takes us into problem solving by thinking or activating our imagination and using our imagination to create new from old. Now, when it comes again to this idea of working with the energies of sacred union, then what we want to be doing is operating from the place where we are honoring the strength of the masculine, which is really about structure. It's about solutions. It's about creating the banks of the river for the river to flow, and also the feminine, which is the energy, the resonance, the frequency that we want to tap into before we take action. So as a leader, you tell me, what's the first thing that happens when you get up in the morning? What do you do as soon as you wake up? Do you give yourself some time, or are you straight on your phone problem solving? Do you wake up with a list of things that you need to do? What are your sleep patterns like? Are you finding yourself actually enjoying taking time to rest? Or are you working to the very end of your day, maybe medicating with whatever it is, food, alcohol, other substances, just to get you through to the point that you can actually do more? Or are you giving yourself permission not to? Because in order for us to truly be in the place of being an abundant leader, what is required is that we tap into the frequency of abundance. We resonate with it. And most of us, when we're in conversation with others, tend to have conversations that are focused on problems. They're focused on lack. They're focused on something wrong, rather than allowing ourselves to energize what is right. So one of the things I talk about a lot in my coaching is, before you take action, you want to get yourself into the feeling state already of being receptive to things being easy, receptive to grace, receptive to ease, receptive to the idea that there is support available to you. And if you're not receptive to this and you're just trying to take action to problem solve, then you will keep looping. So let's carry on with what is actually written down. So being in the thrive paradigm means moving beyond just enough, beyond not enough, into more than enough and plenty. Now, I want to be clear that what we know and what we understand presently, that we live as our reality, isn't the way it's always been. And I said to you, we need to go back to before the problem. Okay, we need to go back to before the struggle actually started, to remember the time before the fall. And Lemuria was the first ancient advanced civilization that then gave way to Atlantis. And I know more about Atlantis than Lemuria, but recently I was tapped into the Lemurian frequencies and understood more about what was different between the two, and how Lemuria is essentially feminine dominant and Atlantis was masculine dominant, and how the two together really hold the key. So we're not in a place where we want the masculine to be dominant or the feminine to be dominant. What we want is an infinity sign surrounding both, allowing us to have within us both the resonance for what we desire to create and also the capacity to co-create this through the structures, through the mindset, through the ability to line up with attitude, alignment, action. Okay, these are the elements of Anusara yoga, which is to flow with grace, to be in the right attitude, to create the alignment, to take divine right action. And this does mean being soul dominant. This does mean us being in a place where we can actually start to receive divine counsel. So the time before the fall, we can access through our DNA memory, where we were parasympathetic nervous system dominant, where our expectations were of plentiful supply, where we asked and we knew it would be given. We didn't worry that we'd get a no. This is before the stories we hear about cavemen and the evolution of humans from apes. So we did have advanced civilizations before we fell from grace and had to start again. And just remember that all of us here now are winners, okay? Because we are the descendants of the originals, the original humans that were probably spliced, and I say spliced, but integrated with higher consciousness from civilizations outside of this planet. and actually evolved into the capacity to be conscious, compassionate humans today. Now, again, I just want to come back to this idea of lack and where lack is actually showing up in your life. And this is important because, as I said, your personal story is hugely relevant to your capacity to have impact in this world. Now, what that actually means is if you are focused on serving others, being support of others, but your personal life is a not happy one, you're in a struggling relationship, you're not healthy, you're not happy, finances are not really abundant, resources are lacking, you don't feel like you have support, you don't feel like you have enough of anything, then it's very difficult to have the impact that you desire. So make a note of this. Where is lack showing up for you? Is it the lack of receiving? Is it difficult for you to receive? And remember, there's a subtle wound here, which is we tend to be, as leaders, control freaks. And so it is easier to give and therefore on a subconscious level have those owe to us than it is for us to receive and therefore feel owing. So just be aware of that and remember that when we breathe in and we breathe out. You can't just keep breathing out without breathing in. Is there a lack in reciprocity? Do you find yourself in exchanges where typically you are putting the efforts in and others are not meeting you and reciprocating? Now, this doesn't mean I scratch my back, I scratch your back and you scratch mine. This is much more about the energy of cooperation, okay? The energy of mutual support, the energy of speaking up for what you want and what you need and not expecting others to read your mind. This is very, very important. Now, I say this knowing that in Lemuria, people were primarily telepathic, but we're getting back to that, okay? Right now, what's important is for you to own what is important for you and to be able to speak it into any agreement with others. Don't expect that they're just going to be generous to spirit and know what you want and need. You have to speak up for you. That is very, very important as a leader. What about lack of love? Maybe it's primarily in your sacred union relationship. Maybe you're not feeling that your love needs are being met. Maybe your love language is not understood. Maybe you find yourself again giving, not receiving, or feeling unsatisfied, dissatisfied with the relationship that you actually have. Is it a lack of resources? Is it a lack of money? Is it a lack of opportunities? Is it a lack of clients? Is it a lack of support, motivation, initiative? We talk about self-sabotage, okay? We talk about how we procrastinate. But ultimately, most of us are more scared of having what we want than of failing because we don't know what to do with new problems, but we do know what to do with old ones. This is part of this programming that keeps us in the lack story. Now, can you take a minute to imagine a world where this was no longer an issue? Can you imagine your life just for a minute now? Just take that moment where this issue isn't a problem anymore. I say this in relation to my relationship with my husband because I had a long history of unrequited love or love where I was never met where I wanted to be met. And now I am met abundantly, generously, in all ways that I desire to be. Now, what changed? Nothing outside of me really changed. It was inside of me that the change got made. I decided I was worthy of more. I was deserving of more. And I was going to raise the bar so that I started to say no to what wasn't meeting me. And I started to recognize it and say, that's not for me. That's not going to give me what I desire. I had to firstly have a sense of resonance with what I desired. What did it feel like to be met? I had no idea. I had to use my imagination to be able to recognize what it feels like to be met. Okay, so I wrote love notes to myself. I bought myself gifts that I wanted my beloved to buy me. I imagined that he was just away. He wasn't non-existent yet, and that I was living the life as though he was already there. How did I view myself having this love? It's all about shifting my perception because perception is reality, my friends. So what's really important for us is to remember that if we want to see a change in the world outside, it's important that we actually experience it from inside. Now, how do we overcome the being stuck in a loop, one drama after another playing out again and again? How do we overcome being trauma obsessed, identifying it, clearing it, and being free of its impact? because these are the elements that keep us stuck in the loop. Well, this is the program we're running. We have to firstly recognize that the life we're experiencing isn't our chosen life. It is the one that we've been programmed to have by our ancestors and by society's expectations. So it's in our bloodlines, it's in our soul memories, it's in the water we bathe in and drink, and the land we inhabit and consume food from. How do we overcome it? Well, it's important that we do create a new relationship with resource. And typically when I'm working with those who are wanting to help shift the world but don't have the resources to do it, there is definitely an idea that money is the root of all evil, that somehow it is bad to have it, that if we have it, we're not safe. And there's all these stories around it. And maybe you've already started to work with your money story. Maybe you've done several rounds of working with your money story. But in order to change this story, it is important to neutralize what we imagine money to be. Money is like energy. It is neutral. It is what we do with it that determines whether we're using it for good or not. Okay? We can feed 5,000. We can create a bomb with money, right? Now, the money itself is not the root of all evil. It is what we do with it. It is our intention. And it's very important that we actually evolve our concept of being open to receiving more so we can give more. So there's another issue here, which is around profit, because capitalism, as we know it, we consider a dirty word because there's all these things like built-in obsolescence that have been built into our planned obsolescence that have been built into, you know, the various things we consume so that they will break after a while and we'll buy more. And this is why we're in a situation where we're using more resources than this planet has available. Now, we don't need to do that, do we? But we still have to remember that there's one of me, for example, there's not 10 of me. So, you know, for those who want to work with me, there is a limit to how many people I can work with on a very deep level. That scarcity is genuine, just like you, my friend. Okay, there's one of you. And so you are unique. And it is important that you recognize your value and your worth so that others recognize that as well. And ultimately, you get to pick and choose who you would like to work with, who you are here to help support, to have impact in this world. Now, I talk about money not being the root of all evil, and it's not a dirty word, but for many of us it is. And so challenging concepts of wealth are so important. We're also required to expand our capacity to receive by clearing blocks to receiving, which are largely in the mind, subconscious, personal and collective, and current consciousness beliefs. Now, I deal with all of that in my program, Fearless, Loved Up and Limitless. And I've been saying for a while that when it comes to reprogramming your subconscious, it's not just your personal stories. It's actually your ancestors' stories. It's also the collective subconscious. And it's not just the subconscious. It is your current consciousness. It is what you are aware of, the beliefs you hold that you perpetuate through your words, through your actions, through your expectations. So these are things you can become conscious of. And it is so important if you want to go from surviving to thriving to do this upgrade. And yes, you can do it in 6 months. Okay, it is a 6-month journey to transmute and to transform from a fear-based platform to a thrive one. But then it takes lots and lots of feeding and maintaining and practice and commitment to uproot the scary things, the bits that come up in resistance, and to transmute those. Because you're an infinite being. You've been around many, many times. Your soul has many lifetime experiences, and we have soul memories that relate to our bloodline memories. And the two together can keep playing out the same old story. And this is why, as a leader, it is really important to keep working with this. The work is never done. When you are ready, you'll get the next level. And, you know, I know that there is a whole world problem with hierarchy. We don't like the idea of hierarchy. We want to live an egalitarian existence. And yet, if you think of the spiritual world and you come from oneness into separation, there's all these layers that lead us back into oneness. It is a pyramid, my friends, right? So getting used to the idea that this is not necessarily a bad thing is important. Okay, as we grow and develop, what happens is we're able to lead more. So you lead one person, you lead 2, you lead 3, you lead 30, you lead 60. Your impact increases as you are able to hold more energy. But you have to stabilize at each level. And how do you do that? Well, you have to grow your capacity. Okay. Can you imagine if you come back to this new moon energy, that you have the Venetian energy of luxury, of lusciousness, of being resourceful, of having a plentiful supply, of feeling well supported, how that actually makes you feel. There's a sense of being able to lean back. There's a sense of being able to be received, being seen, knowing that what you have to say is important, knowing that your perspective is unique, and daring to speak it out so others can actually hear it. Now, this energy allows us to step forward and to really embed in the Thrive paradigm, because we honor and value ourselves. So this is why strengthening your physical vessel, your body, so you can receive more, hold more, radiate more. This really is very important for us as we grow into the new paradigm, because till now, we have 9,000 years of patriarchy. One could argue 90,000. Before that was an era of matriarchy, but we're not going back to that. We're creating a hybrid of the very best of the matriarchal and the patriarchal paradigms. And by this, I mean, let's come back to Lemuria and Atlantis. Let's remember that Lemuria was primarily a civilization that was feminine dominant. From what I understand, I learned this from Solara and Perila's channelings, it was the Pleiadian civilization that came to Earth, into the feminine on this Earth, as the Pleiadian goddesses, the Lemurian goddesses, who merged in sacred union with the men that were existing at this time, the human men. And as a result of that, the children that were born were an evolution of the previous version of humans. Okay, so this was really the start of us then moving into Atlantean energy, which came later when other civilizations came to inbreed, if you like, or to connect with the humans. So again, this might seem far-fetched, but just imagine I'm telling you a story. Whether it's real or not doesn't matter, but imagine that we were living in a civilization in Lemuria, which was basically psychic, it was spiritual, and it was nature dominant. So we were at one with nature. But if you know anything about the feminine principle and Shakti energy, it's energy without direction. So we were existing and we were procreating, but there wasn't really much advancement. We were just kind of doing this. And then, apparently, what I understand happened, some point after quite a while, the Atlantean civilization started to evolve. I don't think in exactly the same place, but this was originally seeded by the good Anunnaki, later the Syrians, and later the Arcturians. So these are all star families. And of course, what ended up happening was this was a male-dominant society, the Atlanteans. And what ended up happening with this is that we had well, splicing with all sorts of experiments going on with DNA, which didn't necessarily work out very well at all. But also we had huge technological advancements and also communication. Now, in the heyday of Atlantis, you had the ultimate evolution of the masculine human, if you like. And in the heyday of Lemuria, we have the ultimate evolution of the sacred feminine. So can you imagine us going back through our memories into the highest octave of the Atlantean masculine, the highest octave of the Lemurian feminine, and bringing these together and saying, right, let's have nature, spirituality, and psychic abilities super active. And let's also enjoy and embrace the technological advancements and communication and structures that allow us to evolve and grow into greater unity and oneness. This is the recipe. It's not either or, it's and this and more. And this is exactly why we don't just need consciousness, which on its own lacks compassion and can lead to us creating much suffering just to explore and experiment. And we don't just need compassion, because compassion on its own is wonderful, but bringing consciousness and compassion together allows discernment, allows us to not get into the stories that keep us stuck in an empathy wound, therefore never really being able to support those that we're here to lead out of their suffering, because we keep buying into their suffering, joining them in their suffering through the empathy and the compassion, and we don't move forward. The leaders of the new earth are required to lead by example, not through self-sacrifice. This is super, super important. The other element that's very important is connecting to the earth chakra and soul chakras. These need to be activated so our divine architecture, which includes our light body and our sphere of compassion, physical outline and core line, are strengthened and they are expanded. Okay, so this is how we then really open up to the gifts of thriving, by growing ourselves. We grow our soul lights into our bodies. Now, one of the things I haven't talked about is the fact that in previous years I was a doula, which meant that I would attend births, okay, as part of all the work I did with fertility and pregnancy, etc. Being a doula was part of the work that I did, and I would support women through their preparation for birth, during their birth, and then after birth. Now, these days I call myself a doula of the soul. So what I do with those who come to me and feel called to me is to support them to integrate more and more of their soul light into their bodies. Now, as a result of that, we just become lighter. Okay, we're less dense, we're holding more light, we radiate more. As a result of radiating more, we hold a higher frequency, we affect everyone around us. It's like we stop attracting the crap because we're not in resonance with it. We're resonance with a higher vibration, so we're really only open to that which resonates with that higher vibration. And this is really key, and this is why I've been banging on so much. In fact, stop saying banging on. This is why I have been putting so much focus on letting people know about the gifts that are coming with the upcoming Lionsgate in August, and why it's so important to begin the preparation now. This is not something to wait until August and go, oh, I'm open and I'm ready. I heard someone say recently that they just didn't want any more upgrades. They wanted to go on holiday. And my answer to that was, oh, darling, fasten your seatbelt, because there's really no holiday from this. Okay, the waves are just going to keep increasing in terms of magnitude. We're going to learn to surf tsunamis. All right, but the thing is, they don't just come on their own. We build it up through time, and yes, there are lulls between the waves. So when there is a lull, it's super important to rest. Come back to what I said before about the cyclical nature of humans. There is a time to rest. There is a time to play. There is a time to push forward. There is a time to surrender. In a woman's cycle, there are times when we're more active and in our yang energy. And then there are other times when we're in our yin energy. The most important thing is to pay attention to your energy levels and to really feel into where you would be pushing beyond your comfort. Now, comfort zones do need to be expanded, okay? But what I'm saying is we're so used to avoiding and ignoring the pain signals in our body. We get a headache because we're stressed, we take a painkiller, we go to work. We're tired, we drink coffee to carry on. We need sugar to have a boost. Like, all of this is constantly trying to keep us in a wound up state. And that wound up state is not sustainable. So the Thrive Paradigm leaders are required to be regenerative. That means we have to be tapped into infinite supply. We have to believe in infinite supply. And it's not necessarily that we've got millions in our bank account or even billions. It's more that we know we can access anything that we require to be able to fulfill something we desire to fulfill in this world. But there is also the lesson of learning to hold a vision, to hold the resonance of what it feels like for that vision to be complete, and then to ask for divine guidance to take divine right action. And things invariably don't work out as we expect. If we allow them to, they will work out better than we expect. But what's important again here is that we allow ourselves to let go of the attachment to outcome, to surrender to the highest good and the win-win-win. And that is how we are creating more and more in the Thrive Paradigm. Now, another element that's really important, and I'll bring this to a close shortly, is being with others of resonance with your light. How many folk do you hang out with that truly lift you up, inspire you, and you can be raw and vulnerable around? I say this because there's loads of networking events. There's loads of places we can go that are leadership trainings, but I don't see very many of them giving you a safe space to strip away the veneer of I've got this all sorted, and actually to drop into where you don't feel you've got it sorted, where you feel vulnerable, where you don't feel enough, where there are blocks that are stopping you receiving what you desire. And again, this is exactly why I decided to create the Lionsgate Transformational Nurture Container and the 3-day retreat. Now, I want to tell you a bit about this because it seems that people love the idea but have been reticent to step forward and say, this is for me. And I feel like on some level, there is this sense of, oh my God, this is going to be too much effort. And yet what I'm inviting you into is an opportunity to make the most of the energies that are going to be at their most expansive during the Lionsgate portal between the 7th and the 12th of August. But from my perspective, the portal is already basically being activated now. I activate it, or I'm stepping into the energy with those who join me for this container on the 7th of July. And there's not a lot you have to do, right? I've set this up so that there are several online touch points that if you can make live, you do. But if you can't, you catch the replay. The first thing is to come into the resonance of expanding, of being willing to tap into this flow, because anything you want, first of all, you want to lay it down that this is what you want, and then open yourself up to receiving it. Because when you decide you want something, the blocks will be revealed. So I've created a 3-month space to bring those blocks to your awareness and then to clear them. So one thing is to come together to activate the portal, to become aware that we're now consciously channeling this energy through our bodies, through our energy fields, through our lives, so we can truly step into the Thrive paradigm. The second element is then to look at our personal narrative, to look at all the areas of our lives that are basically the wheel of life, and then to say, okay, where do I want to change the story here? Where is my personal narrative not aligned, or my personal experience not aligned with what I desire to experience? Because if we bring the focus back to us, then what we can do is we create the resonance of being in a Thrive paradigm ourselves first. And even if you've done this work before, it's not something you do once. I had someone else tell me that they've done the birth work. They've looked at their birth story. I'm like, there is so much in your birth story, in your pregnancy story, in your conception story. Looking at it once is never going to be enough, because every time you up level, there'll be another element. There'll be another something that's there for you to be able to work with to shift your cellular memory. So please be aware, if you're someone who feels you've already done everything already, I get it, okay? I get it. But remember, we're not going around in circles, we're spiraling up. So when those come to me, and they're either the visionaries that I call the architects of the new world, the leaders that are basically having a vision that they want to actualize, or the builders of the new earth, who are the coaches, the therapists, the healers, the teachers, the influencers. You know, in both instances, the importance is to create a safe space behind closed doors where we can actually really go deeper into things we think we've already done before, but to see them from a perspective where we can really go into the mud and allow the lotus to come out. Now, those 2 sessions that I just mentioned, the rewriting your narrative and the opening the portal, precede us coming together. But when we actually come together, we've been invited to come together into North Wales, into an absolutely beautiful retreat space that is Charlotte Church's retreat space. And this used to be Laura Ashley's home. So it's an exquisite home in the most beautiful nature. If you haven't been to North Wales, it's incredibly magical, green, beautiful. There's natural forest there, there's waterfalls, there's amazing landscapes. This isn't your invitation to come and do hard work stuff. It's your invitation to come and rest your being for 3 whole nights and 4 days, to come and receive, to be looked after, nurtured, to sleep, to bathe in the forest, to allow yourself to commune with the land, with the nature spirits, to stargaze, even if it's raining. Because when we're in the Lionsgate portal, there's an amazing energy available to us to tap into. And the more we're connected to nature, the less we are connected to technology, the more that we can actually tune in and receive this inner guidance that is your soul communicating with your human. But everything has to slow down. And the other beautiful thing is the people that you come together with are there on the same journey as you. They play different parts. So as we open ourselves up to getting to know everyone who has been called to this space and time together by the Star Peace Collective, okay? So I am a spokesperson for the Intergalactic Super Federation. I call them the Star Peace Collective. But essentially, they've called us to come together to receive the peace codes, to receive the joy codes, to receive the wealth codes, to receive the sacred union codes that allow us personally to integrate from wounded self trying to make a change in the world to whole integrated self making a change from that heart and higher heart energy, which allows us to give from the overflow. Now, I heard someone else say, I barely feel like I can keep my life together right now, never mind be an example of a leader. And there is this sense of being scared to show up. We are scared of persecution, my friends, because in previous lifetimes, we have been persecuted for the very things that we're here to do in this life. We are overthrowing a system, but guess how we're doing it? Instead of pushing it and creating a revolution that is an off with their heads type revolution, we're creating the scaffolding of the new world around the old world. And as we do this and we build something so much more beautiful through our imagination and our energy, then we're able to dismantle the old world. It just comes crumbling down. Okay, and this is our remit, to join together, to bring Soul Tribe together, to elevate our consciousness. We do it through sound baths. We do it through connecting with our star families. We do it through cacao ceremony. We do it through multidimensional physical embodiment. I call that yoga. Promise you, if you've ever done yoga and not liked it, what I teach is phenomenal. It's all about activating all your energies in a way that feels delicious, okay? And it is simple form. It's not meant to be super complicated. We also do this through light language transmissions. We do it through being in nature. We do it through allowing ourselves to have lots of fun and dreamweave a new reality. And more than anything, the invitation is basically to show up and act as your higher self, to step into the energy that you're already where you want to be, to dream it into reality, and then to own when blocks come up so we can clear them. I'm going to teach you reality crafting. I'm going to teach you reverse engineering. I'm going to invite you to basically allow yourself to download the structure and the plan that's going to come from you being in resonance with your intention. Now, when you know what you want to do, like for example, for me, it's Star Peace. It's sharing the Star Peace message with the world. I have another client who is basically creating the most beautiful healing music and putting it out into the world in lots of different genres. I got another client who is a jeweler, who's also becoming a coach, who is wanting to share her joy with the world, to share her gifts with this world in such a way that she's just learning to do what she does anyway in one modality in another. I have another client who runs her own record label and is also herself a therapist and a coach, and is signing up artists who are supporting a shift in consciousness. There are so many potentials here for us to create change, because there is a three-pronged approach to the science of creating peace on earth. And one of the elements is to do with the birthing world and the pregnancy world. Another element is to do with basically making peace really visible in this world and challenging concepts of peace because people don't know what it is. And three, it is actually about edutainment, which Bruce Lipton talks about. And this is how we create change through what we share in the name of TV, music, and books and pop culture, art. Okay. So, hello, everybody who's here. Lovely to have you here. Let me just check the comments. Hello, 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 hello. So I have already shared quite a few questions around all of this, but what I would like you to recognize is what I've taken you to is just to the point of Lionsgate. But then when we get to the other side, what we're actually doing is we're working with integrating the lessons. So we have several sessions after we meet in person. One of the sessions is actually to integrate 13 universal laws of creating in the new paradigm. They're slightly different to what we've been creating with in the past paradigm. So the whole of our universe is getting an upgrade. Okay, we're going from duality into oneness. The way I've described this is, imagine the yin and the yang. All right, that's the duality, light and dark, good versus evil, bloody, bloody, blah. But what unifies is the circle around. And when you've heard me talk about divine architecture, I always talk about the sphere of compassion that holds all that you are. So every one of us leaders, in order to access the ancient roots of sacred union and wealth and peace and joy, is required to ultimately integrate our shadow and light, to love up every bit of us that we reject, that we abandon, and that we betray in order to gain some kind of favor. And the easiest way to do this is actually to ask those we love, what do you see in me that I cannot see? How could I actually get more aligned with what it is I desire? And you know what? That's a tough question to ask. And I wouldn't ask it of just anyone. This is where it's so important that you have got soul tribe around you that can hold you, that can be compassionate and loving as they reflect the mirror to you. And as we get into the integration time of everything we've opened ourselves up to, because when we're in Lionsgate, we'll be receiving the codes, not through hard work, just through surrender, through opening up, through resting, through play, through joy, through fun, through land work. And I'll come into the land work in a second and why North Wales is so important. And essentially, then when we come together online again, we're integrating the lessons. What has stuck? Where do we have questions? How do we now create a pathway from where we are to where we want to be? Because when you create in 5D, you get the big vision and then you get the next step. And it takes tremendous courage to trust that you will be provided for every step of the way. Next step is given, you go there, then the next step is given. And that's how you build the bridge from the old world to the new one. Once we've done all of that, we then have one-to-one sessions where I'm going to be communicating with your soul self and your human self and seeing how they can integrate more so that you can truly embed the lessons that you have received. And then we come together to close the portal in October. And that's just before we come into the energy of the next star piece, what I call it, anniversary, because the 31st of October is when the star piece message was birthed. So land work, let's just go there very quickly because the land work is really important. Land work is really when we come together to access our earth chakras, to access the crystalline grid, and to bring healing to the planet. I mentioned before how, you know, on the surface, where we grow food, we basically keep repeating the trauma that has existed on the land, okay? We have our ancestral trauma that runs through our bloodlines, but we also have so much suffering and blood spillage that has occurred on the land and also under the land. And this is why Wales is so important, North Wales. I didn't even know why I ended up in North Wales last year, but around the solstice, I ended up climbing Mount Snowdon. And I took the Star Peace codes, the Paradise Earth codes, the Atlantean Master Teacher codes, and also the Christ-like Miracle code through my crystals on my walk up to Mount Snowdon, and I seeded them there. The next day, we ended up going ziplining, and part of the zipline experience was actually to have a tour of the mines, the slate mines in North Wales. Well, did I know? No, I didn't. That so many miners lost their lives, that they were living in abject poverty, they were being treated like utter crap, and what they were doing was working so hard to basically mine the slate that is now all around the world on people's roofs. Right, this slate has gone everywhere. So imagine this: if we want to activate the Thrive paradigm in the whole world, does it not make sense that if we activate those codes in the slate that still exists in the land in Wales, we're going to be able to transmit that, because part of the work we're going to be doing, to the slate all around the world. Part of the action here that's so important is that we transmute this pain and suffering that exists in the land. That's deep, right? In the mines, in the land, that basically there are trapped souls there that need releasing. There's the energy of poverty consciousness that keeps the humans living above the land in a constant loop of struggle and stress and poverty. Remember also that with the miners, this was very much a generational thing where the son becomes a miner and the next son becomes a miner, and the whole mindset gets passed from one generation to the next. So when we do land work, what we're actually doing is we're clearing the trauma that exists. We're transmuting it. And we're allowing ourselves to get underneath it to the time and the land underneath, the layers of the earth where thriving is continuous. We also get to go into the water and purify the water. Now, this is very important because the water on our planet and in our blood is getting, in our bodies is getting an upgrade. We are what? 70, 80, 90% water. And if this water is polluted and it's just recycling all the time, there's a problem there, right? So we clean up the water, we clean up the land, and then what happens is the land can offer us healing. So all the codes that are available to us, when I went to Greece last year and I offered up a code activation to those who came with me to where we were called then, which was Santorini. We had the Atlantean Master Teacher codes, but we didn't have the Lemurian Goddess codes. We now have those too. So for those of you who really want to come into an integrated sacred union, this is about us accessing the very best of the masculine and the feminine. It's also about allowing ourselves to thrive, to have plenty of what we want so that we can generously give to others and we can support others to give to themselves. This is not about saving everyone. This is about supporting them to save themselves. We are all entitled to be sovereign, autonomous beings, and this is part of the Thrive paradigm. So as a leader, consider where and who you give your power to. Who is the authority that you bow down to? Is it the government? Is it the economic system? Is it the fears that you have? Is it what your mum said to you when you were 5? Is it what your dad said to you when you were 10? Is it the birth experience that was so traumatic? Is it your own experience of, having had a difficult relationship or a difficult pregnancy or birth? Where are you giving your power away? Where are you stuck in a loop? Because that has to be cleared for you to access Thrive Paradigm. Now, what I'd like to do is to actually put the link to this amazing opportunity in the comments for you. And just want to say that where am I? Hello. The early bird was due to finish yesterday. I think it was yesterday. No, it was the 5th. However, I have a very, very, very generous host that has given me some extra time to invite those of you who actually watch this to still have access, to the early bird offer. And I also want to make super clear to you that if you need to make the payments in more installments, I'm happy to meet you in a place that is possible. We've got time. We've got May, June, July, 3 months ahead of August, okay? So we can make the payments work in such a way that you can make it possible. Now, I want to say that the way that I work with people is very, very deeply. So when you actually sign up to this, you're signing up to my full support. It's not just the sessions we have online, and it's not just the retreat that is going to be the most exquisite grounds, but it's also the support that you have through a WhatsApp or a Telegram channel with me, where I am constantly voice messaging you. I'm there daily to support you through your breakthroughs. Now, this is probably the most important way to overcome hurdles. I really value it in my own coach. It's made such a difference, because if you've ever been part of a coaching program and you have to put your question in a Facebook group and someone's going to answer it 24 hours later and they're going to half answer it, or you wait to be in a group where you might get 10 minutes of the coach's attention, but they need to move on to the next person. It's such BS. I can't stand it. And I've been in enough programs myself to say, no, that's not the way. So you do get me supporting you individually within this group space. And the maximum amount of people that will be in this retreat and this container will be 14. Okay, that's the maximum. But I want to invite you into your reasons why you wouldn't. If you would go and you would spend money on a holiday, that's very different to investing in a life-changing opportunity that's going to support you for many years to come. Ultimately, you have to decide what's important to you. And, most of us will do something maybe once, but not recognize how important it is to keep digging deeper. So I would really like you just to open yourselves up to the idea that you are worth the time, you are worth the investment, you are worth thriving so that you can really give to others. Because when you allow yourself all of these beautiful, beautiful things, then wonderful magic happens. So I'm just going to give you some fundamentals of thriving. The parasympathetic nervous system needs to be dominant. We create from joy and from love. We're solution focused, not problem driven. We transmute fear into passion for change before taking action. Now we want to be in resonance with the desired result before taking action. And we also need Thrive Paradigm Code activation. When I talk about code activation, if you're like, what is she talking about? Remember I said to you, there's the memory way, way back before the trauma, before the fall. These are latent codes, effectively dormant in our DNA. They have to be activated. So they get activated through our imagination. They get activated through light language. They get activated through our guides and teachers and star families supporting us to remember where we came from. This is very, very important. And I just wanted to touch briefly also on the wealth deities. So as I've been connecting more to, well, the concept of wealth and what it really means to be plentiful, abundant, prosperous, to feel rich, yeah, and to allow ourselves to bathe in the concept of affluence and wealth. When we look at the main deities, we have Lakshmi and we have Kubera in India. We also have Plutus or Pluteus and Tyche in Greece. Now, there are other deities too, but what's really interesting is if you look at the stories around them, especially around the masculines, you have the story of, are they demons? Are they gods? You know, Pluteus, for example, was also Hades, the god of the underworld. Now, if you consider all, you've heard this before, that there's gold in the dark, there's gold in the shadow. If you embrace your shadow, you find the gold. Well, isn't it in the land that we find the precious gems, the jewels, the crystals? Isn't it in the land that we find the precious metals? Yes, it is. So going down allows you to rise up. And there's another element that's super important, which is the role of the dragons. So we've all been taught to fear dragons, okay, to fear them as evil creatures. Think about George and the dragon. Think about every story you've ever seen other than the never-ending story around dragon energy. They're scary creatures, right? And yet they're not. They're guardians. They're protectors. They're guardians of the Middle Earth. They're guardians of deep, deep, deep in this earth. For us to expand the light frequencies, it is super important that we deeply connect to the dragon energy. We make peace with it. We overcome the fears that we have, and we learn to see things differently, because perception is reality. You could also argue that imagination is reality, because what you conceive, you can achieve. Right, now let's bring this to a close. So for those of you who would like to find out more about the Lionsgate container and retreat, please remember, as I said, I will honor the early bird for those of you who click on the link and you book your call with me. You must book your call. It's the only way that we can actually take this to the next step. So I'll put the link in the comments for you, and I'll put it in the main box as well. So whether you see this on YouTube or you see it in Facebook, the important thing to remember is that you will basically have this opportunity to receive the early bird so long as you book your call, and you do so before the end of this week. So I'm going to give you until, today's the 7th, so I'm going to give you until the 10th to do this. It's really, really important. And if you haven't done it by the 10th, make sure you get in touch and let me know you're interested, so we can at least start this conversation. I'm happy to extend payment plans so we can make this possible, but it's very important that you make a commitment now, because when you make the commitment, that's when everything starts to shift. If you don't make the commitment, it can't. Now, if the Lionsgate portal and the nurture container is not for you for whatever reason, there's also Fearless, Loved Up and Limitless, which is the 6-month circuit rewiring, which will allow you to go from clearing your subconscious from the survival mechanisms to the thriving mechanisms. And this is something I'm happy to talk with you about if you message me. There's also, if you're stuck in your head, Liberation from Limitation, which is a narrative rewrite. And this is going to be part of Lionsgate. You actually get access to liberation from limitation. It's one of the bonuses, just like you get the Divine Prosperity and Regenerative Wealth course as part of your bonus. And if you pay in full, you get a Divine Navigation call with me. And you get 1111, so it's just over £1,000 off the price in the early bird. And you have to choose the options in terms of the room that you'd like to go into. There's only one single occupancy room, which can be for a couple. There's 5 rooms that are for joint occupancy, and there's only 1 room with triple occupancy, and that I believe is already fully booked. So what I'd like you to do is just to take action. Things do move, they change. If you can participate in this, I highly recommend you do. Okay, you'll get so much bang for your buck. It's really, really worth it. You get extended support from me. I cannot say enough about that. Now, if you want to actually then bring yourself into the place where you want to do other work, there'll be opportunities after. But if you haven't yet been into liberation from limitation, and that feels like it's most available because you can't join us in Lionsgate, look at liberation from limitation. Also, look at Fearless, Loved Up and Limitless, which is the complete 6-month program. What I haven't mentioned to you is there's going to be a free event on the 8th, a pre-recorded meditation. I am intending to bring many, many, many leaders and many of their followers together to all participate in listening to and visualizing the guided visualization meditation at 2 key points in the day, 8:08 a.m., 8:08 p.m. And this will be universal time, so we can gather our energies. When we all hold the same intention together, magic happens. Okay, so that's going to be something, if you want to know more about, please go to starpeaceconsciousness.com and sign up to the manifesto, which will bring you into the mailing list. Make sure you sign that you want to join the mailing list, and then I'll be able to send you the pre-recorded meditation as soon as it's recorded and all the instructions of how you can participate. I'm going to end with this, lovely ones. This is the 6 fuel star map. Okay, this is the shift. Now, this is one of the star maps that's part of my book, The Star Piece Star Maps, which is a manual for leaders of the new earth to support us all to shift from surviving to thriving. It's full of activation codes. And again, if you join starpeaceconsciousness.com, the mailing list, you'll be the first to hear about it. I'm going to be working on it tomorrow. First print will be out in June, and this will be me self-publishing, but I'm fully intending that Hay House take it on and it becomes an international bestseller because it's so needed. If you haven't yet read ET 101, to me, that is the prequel to this. So let's look at the 6 fuel shifts quickly. It's adrenaline to oxytocin, so stress hormones to love hormones, essential for 3D to 5D shift. Fear to trust. So what if life does love you and wants you to be happy? What if fear is false evidence, emotion, or expectation appearing real? What if you shake it off, Taylor Swift style, hand the worries over to source and ask for a miracle? Remember that trust is code word for magic. Now, I teach all of these things all the time in my courses, so they become second nature. The 3rd fuel shift is struggle to thriving. I must hustle to survive becomes I am reprogrammed to thrive. It is okay to feel the urge to hustle. You were wired to survive, and now you are rewired to thrive, baby. Long breath out, deep breath in. So it's okay to feel it. It's just what you do with it. Stress to success, fuel shift 4. The key to switching stress for success is perception. Adrenaline fuels fear and excitement. So when stressed, shake and spin your body and claim loudly, I've got this. I am a badass success. So remember what I said, stress to success. Fear and excitement are both activated by adrenaline. Okay, it's just how you perceive the two that determines your experience. 5th fuel shift, ego to highest self. Ego just means me, small me, separate from source me, need to control me, everything to feel safe me, terrified of pain me. Highest self me is the me from my future that already embodies all I aspire to. The eternal me that is a unique droplet of the divine source ocean of love. And again, I go into all the details of this when we work together. And then we also shift from not enough to plenty. So being in plentiful supply is key. And all of this ideally is done before we're even born. So, you know, one of my passions is working with those who haven't yet had babies and getting them into their own Thrive paradigm activation before they actually bring the next generation in. Now, here's where I'm going to finalize. Hey, JDRS, good evening. I had a really wonderful meeting the other day. It was actually Friday, and it was with a guy who is the founder of something called Joyfully Different, which is a non-profit organization, and it is aimed at neurodivergent entrepreneurs to support them to have what they need to be able to get their ideas off the ground. He has invited me to go and do a talk about shifting our perception around wealth as leaders, because ultimately, if we are coming in a lack space ourselves and we're constricted and we're confined and we're wanting to help others, how can that really happen in a sustainable way? Yes, of course, we can receive grants and funding, but because we're in a constant state of stress, because we don't have enough, it is challenging to be able to really make the most of what comes our way. So I'm inviting every one of you who watches this to raise the bar of your expectation for yourself. What would it feel like to give from an overflowing cup, not an empty one? What would it feel like for you to allow yourself to have plenty as an example that inspires others to also want more, without any of us needing to be wasteful, without us needing to be greedy, without us needing to take from someone else so we have more? That's the invitation. This is the world that we are creating together. And the way that I work is the alpha and the omega. So I work on the top level and I work on the grassroots level. This is how I operate. So yeah, I do invest in myself in a huge way. And those of you who come to me are also going to invest in yourselves in a huge way. And this then does allow me to go and do things of service to those who are in true grassroots place and support them to challenge where they're at so that they can thrive too. And this is my commitment to the path. Okay. So thank you so much for being with me. Again, I just want to remind you to check out the link. Do not delay. Okay. You've got until Friday. All right, to be able to book your call. Book it now because the spaces are limited. You go onto the page, read it, see how it resonates. If you like the idea, there's several buttons to book your call. This way we can have a conversation about how we can make it possible for you to be participating in the container and the in-person retreat. I would love you, if you're feeling the resonance, to please book a call and step forward and let's co-create the way. I am a miracle worker. I activate miracles in others. And I'm asking you, please, just to be willing to challenge yourself, to be open to the fact there is a way, even if you don't know how just yet. If for whatever reason you can't join us for Lionsgate, because the key thing is that you are physically present with us from the 7th till the 10th of August. If that's not available to you, then look at Fearless, Loved Up and Limitless and look at Liberation from Limitation. And again, if you're like, I love all of this, Rosie, but it's just so far out there for me, then how about joining me for my online multidimensional yoga? Because there's all the information about that on the website too. And this is really your invitation to start doing something where you make a monthly commitment and you show up every week and come to 1 or 2 of the live classes every week and really start to strengthen your physical, energetic being to receive more. They're full on inspiration. Everyone who comes along are deeply committed because of the transformation that they actually have, and it really strengthens the resolve. And remember, all the free stuff is on starpeaceconsciousness.com. Please sign the manifesto. The book will be ready soon. I'll let you know also about the meditation. And just allow yourself to believe it is possible for you to have more. And I promise you, you will have more. This is where it goes, okay? So any questions you have, please do put them in the comments. You can also email me. If you haven't yet joined the mailing list, we have a wonderful new gift for you. So let me actually put the link to the mailing list as well. Because what we have on the the RozyGlow website is we have 2 free gifts when you join us. One is the rainbow gems, which are like little, you basically have a PDF that you print up and it's full of guidance from your soul, basically. All these little messages that will allow you to come into alignment with your soul consciousness. And what we also did was we shared the Thrive Paradigm Activation. So I did a previous masterclass a while ago, I think it was with the solar eclipse, where I took people through an activation of connecting to their earth and soul chakra and checking out where their divine architecture is at, where their light body, where their energetic, what do I call it? Yeah, energetic container is at, and to support an activation that will allow you to start to receive more because you are radiating the frequency of more. So this is free. All you do is sign up to the mailing list and you can contact me through the mailing list. Check it all out. It's all at the top of the page. Thank you again so much for being a part of this. And please do get in touch with your questions. Please do also make sure that you look at the Lionsgate invitation and join me. This is a heartfelt offering from the Star Peace Collective and me to invite you into something that is once in a lifetime, something that will not be repeated again, something that will allow you to be with your kin, with your soul family, and to receive exactly what you need to step fully into the Thrive paradigm. Rewrite your personal narrative, make the most of all of the blessings that are going to be coming through the next Lion's Gate, which is when Sirius and Orion line up with our sun and our planet and basically downpour blessings. But as I said in previous videos, like if you've got a container like this to receive the blessings, and you want a container like this to receive the blessings, you're only going to receive this many blessings unless you expand your container, and your container is your energy field. It's your physical body's capacity to hold more of your soul light. It is also your core line connection to the center of the earth, the center of the cosmos, and it is your light body activation, my friend, because first you have to activate your light body, then you purify it, then it goes from a six-pointed star to a diamond shape. Okay, and this is through all the work that occurs through us doing the shift from being wired to survive to being wired to thrive. And we can do it. I've seen it happen time and again. I've embodied it, and I have a whole long list of clients who've done the same. So when you shift in your perception, you shift your reality. It's super amazing. Thank you so much for being with me. I value your comments, I value your likes, and I value your shares. So please do share this with others, and let's make the most of this opportunity, lovely ones. You're amazing. The next yoga class is Friday lunchtime, 1 o'clock. We do 10 a.m. on Tuesdays and 1 o'clock on Fridays. And this is UK time. Remember, you can always access the replays if you can't make us live. So much love. Take care for now. And thanks for subscribing and liking.